We have successfully slain all the unsundered Ascians, and thus have halted the 8th Umbral Calamity. By using the spirit vessels forged by G'raha and Beq Lugg, we have brought the Scions home and returned their souls to their rightful place. It seems like brighter days are ahead of us, especially so as Alisaie wishes to employ the magic she learned whilst treating Halric to the tempered here in Eorzea. If she can unlock the secrets of the soul, then she can free the beastmen from their curse, and relations between both man and beastmen can begin anew. While modern-day scholars have given up on primal research, the Allagans were infatuated with them. G'raha recommends we go to the Etherochemical Research Facility in Azizla. We should find the knowledge we seek laying in a node there. Luckily, Tataru has recently had an airship crafted for the Scions, therefore, we do not need to borrow the one from the Garland Ironworks. So we take the Bonaza to Azizla, and immediately begin searching in the terminal for the information we need. Yet the records we require have been deleted. But we shouldn't lose hope. G'raha reminds us that even if a scholar were to delete their study, their node should hold a backup of said information. All we need to do is find that said node and open the records within. His node is currently being locked within the Habisphere. By using a lightning shard, we surge the control mechanisms that tightly lock the door, allowing us to enter and find his node. However, finding the node avails us naught. The thing is password locked and won't open to even G'raha's royal blood. Instead, we decide to bring it to Cid and have him investigate how to crack this thing open. We contact Cid, and G'raha, after all this time, has his reunion with his best friends from the Garland Ironworks, but we don't have time for all this merry chit-chat. By using a Magitech terminal, he can identify the password: freedom. Saying this to the node grants us access to the information within. It displays a hologram of Owen, the creator of this study. He explains everything he knows about the Eikons, and how they bend men to their will. The corruption happens when the ether in the soul is altered. Normally the soul lives in pure equilibrium, but when it comes in contact with an Eikon's ether, it changes their soul and forces it to take on the properties of the entity in question. For example, when in contact with Sephiroth, it forces their soul to shift to Earth aspect. Thus, the subject would get heightened affinity with Earth aspected magics. Repeated exposure would enhance these traits, but alter their very flesh. His studies show that the soul becomes umbrally charged during this process, meaning that the person loses their sense of self, rendering them vulnerable to the will of the Eikon, whose thoughts consume their very existence. In his experiments, he lost the lives of many dear assistants. It was then that Owen submitted a proposal to investigate cures for the tempering, but Lord Amon denied it. He opposed this ruling, which ended up getting him stripped of his rank and kicked out of the Habisphere. He knows they will expunge his record from the archive, but he will leave it here on this node, hoping that one day someone will access it and do what he couldn't: find a cure for iconic corruption. From what Owen has told us, the people who are corrupted by primals are in the same state as the patients which Alisaie treated, meaning her remedy would work all the same, in theory at least. A problem lies with the fact that if she were to employ her magics instead of restoring their sense of self, it would intensify the fanatical faith they have in the primal. So instead, G'raha wishes to use the memory transference spell and modify it. As we may remember, he had to use his crystallized blood to imbue the spirit vessel with his memory transference capabilities, but this time he believes that he will be successful, because the Allagan nodes allow for simulated techniques to be tested. He could conduct years' worth of tests on the node in a matter of a few days. G'raha inspires Cid to help him with this endeavor by telling him that Owen strived for freedom, just as his engineering collective does. He orders everyone to gather supplies to provide the node with enough power to do its simulations. They sent us to Ishgard to procure ceruleum for him. Purely by happenstance, we run into Imeric here. He too is doing his part to aid in the relationships between man and beastmen. When hearing that we are trying to cure tempering, he lends us every barrel of ceruleum they have and gives us an airship to boot. When returning to the Rising Stones, we see that they have worked very fast. They have rebuilt the entire place into a power station. With both Alisaie and our ceruleum combined, we have enough to power this endeavor. Now it is time for it to start. Slowly but surely, the machine powers up. It seems like everything is going according to plan. But suddenly, the machine overloads. Smoke consumes the very air we breathe. Explosions go off as lightning crackles around the machine. They go to turn it off, but G'raha begs for just a moment longer. The node produces the answer, but as quickly as it does it, it disappears. We thought it had been in vain, but he was able to memorize the spell. We have our cure. This is a world-changing discovery, one everyone should be proud of to have played a part in. With the cure in hand, it is time to put it to the test. And who better to test it on than Gabu, the young kobold who has been tempered by Titan ever since that fateful day. First Alisaie summons Angelo, and then G'raha imbues Angelo with the new spell that he had learned, though it costs an unreal amount of ether. It took his, Alphino, and Y'shtola's ether combined to cast that spell correctly. The rest is up to Alisaie. There is no doubt in our mind that she won't succeed. We lay in wait somewhere off to the side for her to return, and eventually she does, looking the worse for wear. She barely has the strength to stay on her feet after expunging so much ether, but she was successful. Gabu's memories have been restored, and his soul has returned to equilibrium. He gives us a little insight as to how it felt being tempered, and how our hopes placed in him gave him the strength to hold on. His memories were clouded, full of only summoning Titan, but he never forgot his parents. They always resided in his heart, even if he could no longer remember them. Yet he realized he could remember them, and he saw more and more memories the longer the treatment went on. He clung to those memories, and that helped him hold on. Alisaie has done it. She has done the impossible. This will be a turning point in mankind's history. For the first time, we have cured tempering. No longer will people be slaughtered on sight for being tempered. Instead, they can be treated. Though there are some caveats to this treatment. First, it requires a huge amount of ether, something most people cannot muster. You also need that amount of ether per person you cure, which is undoable. Second, because this treatment only stirs the soul, it will not work on those who are too far gone. If the tempering has morphed their flesh, then it will not work. Therefore, the next logical step is trying to create an army of Porxies capable of dishing out multiple treatments at once. And who else to look to in that department than Master Matoya, the real one? While Master Matoya is disgruntled that the only time Y'shtola visits her after her return is when she wants something, she knows we wouldn't have come here without a reason. Alisaie shows her Angelo and tells her everything we have been doing thus far. She admits that if we were to create just a dozen of these Porxies, we'd end up collapsing. So instead, she offers we make a familiar who can create familiars. A mother Porxie, as it were. This means it is time for her to enter her old workshop. The Maker's Quarter was once home to some of the finest crafters Eorzea had ever seen, but it has lain in forgotten ruins since the Sharlayan Exodus. It is there, hidden amidst the overgrown foliage, that the entrance to the former workshop of the Archon Matoya can be found. Seeking to create a familiar that creates familiars, we throw open the doors and step into the moldy old hole, the first souls to do so in decades. In the Maker's Quarter, Matoya has 3 Porogos guide us through this facility to get the required materials we need to make the Mother Porxie. The familiars here are feral and untamed, so we will have a lot of battles ahead of us. First they take us to get the clay. Next, we are to get the water flowing, and finally, we fire up the kiln. With everything done, she creates the Mother Porksy, but as a newborn, she is arrogant and doesn't know who is in charge, so we have to do battle with this familiar so it understands its place. Upon its defeat, it learns who is the boss. Again, the magics G'raha learned must be imbued to this Mother Porksy. With the help of both Alphinaud and Alisaie, it is done. Now the Mother Porksy needs only ether to create Porksies. Y'shtola provides it with this ether, and out pops 3 Angelos, all imbued with the magic G'raha was employing, thus saving us the time of creating multiple Porksies and the ether. We decide it is time to return to Limsa Lominsa and let Merleweb know that we have created a cure for tempering. It just so happens that when we enter her room, she is having a meeting with 2 Beastmen tribes. When she learns that we have done the impossible, she believes it is the first true step to a one, united Eorzea. Yet there are some complications. Though she wants to work hand in hand with the Beastmen, there are those who oppose them. She tried to have a meeting for peace in Vylbrand for all, but the bloody executioners were a no-show. And as they were one of the biggest pirate crews, their absence sent a message to the rest of the pirates. Their real captain is sick with an ailment of the lungs, so it falls to his right-hand man, Sciard. But he ignores every single invitation for talks. Without them on our side, the chance for peace is as good as gone. She wants us to investigate the motivation of the bloody executioners and what their vice-captain Sciard seeks to do. First, we are to investigate the city and decide to ask the other pirates what they know about this man. Here is what we have found. Limsa Lominsa was created as a pirate city. It was made by pirates for pirates. To keep those who yearn to live in the old ways happy, the Admiral allowed them to pillage Garlean ships and keep them out of our waters. But as the Garleans are no longer a threat, as Xenos has seen to throw the Empire into disarray, they have been forced to find wealth elsewhere. Recently, the bloody executioners have become privy to a method which produces much wealth. Combining the information with what Alphinaud told us leads us to believe that they are relieving the Kobolds of their crystals and selling them for dirt cheap. This needs further investigation, and luckily Alphinaud set up a meeting with one of their sellers. He will await us at Oshon's Embrance in Lower Lanosea. As our faces are quite recognizable, G'raha is the one to attend this meet. Though the plan nearly falls through, the man believes G'raha is a blacksmith and allows him to see his wares. Unbeknownst to him, we trail his every move and find the location of these crystals. The entire time, we had thought that we were the ones being the hunters, but it was actually us being hunted. Sciard pulls a gun on us and tells us to move in the main room with our hands in the air. He immediately knows who we are, as our faces are famous. He doesn't intend to hurt us. In fact, he is quite the superfan. We walk the path that is righteous and slay the beastmen and their primals whenever needed. In his own way, he is carrying on the torch for us in our stead. By relieving the kobolds of their crystals, they can no longer summon their primal, and thus all of Eorzea is better off. While he isn't doing anything against the law, he should state his case to the Admiral's face directly, and he agrees to do so, only if she comes to the provided venue, the Astalesia. We are asked to be present in a meeting which will decide the future of Vylbrand. Sciard's position is that they are pirates. Limsa Lominsa was founded by piracy. To deny him this right would be inhumane. They have grown up as pirates. All they know is how to be a pirate, and she would ask of them to forsake it and deny who they are. Merleweb sternly replies that piracy has no future in this nation. Though the nation has benefited from piracy, it is only a smaller part of a larger tale. When their ancestors fled after a failed rebellion against a tyrant, they found the shores of Vylbrand as their home. The Kobolds also inhabited these lands, and they used piracy to survive. Then not too long after, the Garleans saw to it to crush everything that they had strove to build, so they joined hands with their neighbors and again survived. Through trade with their newfound allies, they have prospered more than they ever could through pillaging and plundering. And now the Garleans are no more, thus more and more provinces are becoming available to trade to. And where else will these cities turn to if they need their commerce transported across the waves? The tides favor us, and the ocean beckons us with her vast bounty. Sciard understands her, but all he has ever known is to be a pirate. He doesn't want to start a war with a fellow Lominsan, but she should know what fellow pirates do to settle these disagreements. A duel. She accepts his challenge. They both stand back to back and walk to the edge of the boat slowly, and wait for the signal. As a bottle is dropped to the floor, they both draw their guns and fire. The first shot collides with one another and sends it cascading in different directions, missing both of them completely. The second shot is fired by Sciard, and it was aimed directly for the Admiral's head, though she knew he would aim there and dodged it in the nick of time. She returns the favor and fires directly into his leg, making him drop to the ground. She puts her pistol away, and that angers him. He raises his gun to fire once more, but his pistol is shot out of his hand from an unknown source. Sciard faces this person with anger, but his anger turns into surprise. It's the true captain of the bloody executioners, Hilfir. Everything Sciard had been doing was not known to Hilfir. He knew that ever since he signed the Galadian Accord, individual pirate crews no longer existed. Everyone works together under the crew known as Vilbrand, and it is up to the Admiral to steer that ship any way she sees fit. They may be pirates, and all they've known is being pirates, but they are young and free to make themselves anything they want to be. Just hold fast to the true reason they love being a pirate. The loot is good, but it's their love for the sea and the freedom it brings. Without Hilfir's intervention, Merlweb might have been forced to kill Sciard there and then, but now the bloody executioners are on board, meaning that we can finally start peace talks with the Kobolds. Only if it were that easy, however. There is something we must know before we start this endeavor. Half a century ago, the Sahagin swarmed the Lominsans, and they were forced to enter a pact with the Kobolds to survive. The pact went as follows. 2 men shall go the bounty of the sea, 2 Kobolds shall go the bounty of the land. A pact that was purposely obtuse. The wording was ambiguous, and they took advantage of it by laying claim to the northern reaches of La Noscea. The Kobolds believed it was theirs and thought man broke the pact. Bloodshed followed, and bloodshed answered the bloodshed. It went on and on until every yarm of Vilbrand bore the stains of this conflict. This isn't history. This is the present, fresh and raw. Their kindred's blood is still on their hands to this day. To cure the Kobold of their tempering is one thing, but to regain their trust, that is going to be a whole other ordeal. Our plan is to return the crystals we seized from the bloody executioners back to the Kobolds. They will most likely try to summon Titan right there and then. Instead, we will employ the Conqueror's Chain. This will subdue them and give Alisaie time to employ her magic. Once they are cured of their tempering, peace talks can begin. The plan so far is successful. We have found ourselves at the heart of their territory, the navel. Just as we had suspected, they immediately resort to summoning Titan. Merlweb shoots at Zardar's feet to knock his concentration off balance, and Marshal Slafircine uses the Conqueror's Chain to bind him. We are to fend off any Kobolds who try to interrupt Alisaie's magic. One blast of the magic isn't enough to cure his tempering. Not even Alisaie, G'raha, and Alphinaud's combined ether is enough to cure Zardar of his tempering. Both the Admiral and the Marshal are gravely injured in this battle, whilst defending Alisaie, but they knew they would have to make these decisions here. No matter the cost, Limsa Lominsa will have peace. We give Alisaie the last of our ether, and she is able to fire the final blast of the spell directly towards Zadar. He awakens. His memories are restored, tempering gone, but he remembers nothing that happened after being tempered. He is angered upon seeing the dead bodies of fellow kobolds, to which Alisaie tells him that they were killed by his hand to summon Titan. The realization that their death was his doing sets in. Why would he ever do such a thing? Gabu stowed away and followed us to the navel. He relates to how the Patriarch feels because not too long ago he felt the same. He wishes that he'd listen to our words and end the suffering. There has been enough pain already. Merleweb wishes to strive for peace between them. Zadar, however, admits what he did for the Great Father was sinful, but that doesn't mean that there can be peace between them. Men cannot be trusted. They broke the pact and were forced to call upon the divine to rid themselves of our tyranny. He is correct, completely and utterly correct. Men broke the pact and kicked the kobolds out of their land. All she can do is offer an apology and the means to revise the pact and leave no words for doubt. Zadar isn't so easily trusting of these words. Why trust men with another pact when they broke the last one? In the past, kobolds taught men how to smelt ores. We work hand in hand together. That is why if he accepts their aid, she swears on the navigator that she'll bring every bit of commerce they wish to sell to anywhere they wish it to go. No longer shall we be man and beastmen, but one singular crew on the great ship of Vilbrand. Even Gabu speaks for us, telling the Patriarch that there are men who are bad, but the men before him are the best of us. They've only been kind to him, and he trusts us with his life. It seems like Zadar is slowly being convinced, but to truly show her absolution for the crimes committed in the past, she hands Zadar her gun. She was a pirate, one who stained the seas red with blood, and for that, the only punishment fit for her is the death penalty. The gun is loaded, and if he were to fire it at her head, she would die. But it is a life she will give if it means that all of Vilbrand will prosper. Zadar grabs the gun and raises it to her head. He is shaking and isn't thinking straight, but he finds the courage to pull the trigger. The sound of a gunshot echoes throughout the cave. Yet Zadar fired into the air. He does not trust men, but he trusts Gabu. So instead, he will place his trust in him. He has afforded us the chance to prove to him that men can be trusted, and we won't make the same mistake twice. Just as we have found a new way forward with the kobold, a guard rushes up to us, reporting that there is something strange afoot at the floating city, and he can't really describe what it is. It's better if we come look at it ourselves. It is a tower of some sort. The beam from the tower is firing into the sky above. What is this structure? According to the guard, one moment it wasn't there, and then, as if it were there the whole time, it appeared. He believed he was seeing things, but everyone here can see it. Merleweb gets a call which reveals that these towers have sprung up all over Eorzea. Nothing is known about them, except that they are a Garlean construction. She sends us to Alamigo, as they are on the highest alert. Just as quickly as we arrived, there is discourse heard from the civilians. Flying across the night sky, we see Bahamut. It flies over to the royal menagerie, and we give chase. Fandaniel is with this monster, and he waited for us to arrive. He declares he intends to bring about the final days. The towers are a means to that end, and will give rise to the grandest of spectacles. Normally, the Ascians labored to prevent it, but he isn't interested in that. He tried to talk to Elidibus about this, but considering he's dead and gone, he is free to use his powers to fulfill his heart's desire. He desires to lay this half-broken world to waste, leaving not a fleck of dust behind. For what reason does he want to do such a thing? He wants creatures like us to die. Every single one of us, even including himself. He wishes to die and take everyone with him in a paroxysm of pain and suffering. You see, he differs from the ancients who clung on to life, so don't bother trying to reason with him. We will find that he has no reason, no creed, or any such tripe. He just wishes to destroy the world, but please do resist with all our might. It will add to his enjoyment. Keep your eyes peeled, for the curtains have risen on the spectacle to end all spectacles. The Telephoroi will be the performers, and this very star our stage. Fandaniel leads through his dark rift, and we give chase. As we approach where he once stood, Bahamut lets out a powerful fire breath. It even knocks us off of our feet and sets ablaze to the entire menagerie. Fandaniel returns, remarking that he forgot to tell us that Xenos will await us at the heart of the chaos. He wishes to relive that transcendent moment with us once more. For that purpose, he will allow the world to end. If we make his dream go unfulfilled, Lunar Bahamut will reduce our cities to ash and burn everyone within them. We return to the Rising Stones and inform our comrades of our first-hand account. While we fought against the Ascians before, we can understand their motive. If we were in their shoes, we'd do the same as them to bring back our friends. Yet with Fandaniel, it is impossible to understand why he labors so. All we can do is stay vigilant and work with the Alliance on this matter. As for Y'shtola, whilst teaching the Ul'dahs how to use the Porxies to cure tempering, she happened to learn that they were talking with the Amalj'aa. Their peace talks broke when they learned that their people were captured, and concluded that man did it. When they investigated this, they found that the missing Amalj'aa were linked to Fandaniel's towers. We do not know what the towers are for, but they are related to the Beastmen and their primals. If we are dealing with Lunar Bahamut, then who better to ask for help in this task than Estinian? He won't be too hard to track down with Kryle's echo abilities and Tataru's boundless connections. Our triumph may not have lasted all that long, but that has always been the way. The world often needs saving, and we shall do everything we can to prevent this nihilistic madman from taking us all to the grave with him. Not when the future holds such promise, such joy. Meanwhile, somewhere in the Lochs, Lys is worrying about the scouts she sent out earlier. They should have been back by now. Just as she is ready to depart and find them herself, one of them appears. He slowly shuffles towards the camp, saying nary a word except "Glory be to Garlemald," as he raises his sword to strike at Lys. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace,
the piles have been driven as planned, and the first of the beasts has roared to life. Moreover, I am pleased to report that preparations are well underway for the rest. Ere long, chaos shall reign over all the land, as befits the final days.
Call it what you will, so long as my friend returns to me, fangs bared and claws sharpened. I care not.
Of course, my lord. By strange coincidence, your dear friend chanced to be present when I made my declaration. I took the liberty of informing him that you await his coming, though I confess I may have singed him a little in the process.
And why do you tell me this? Are you in such a hurry to die?
Ah, my apologies. I must guard my tongue lest it be the end of me. Though, there is something to be said for such a glorious death. Better to fall to one who has it all than falter before an inferior. Huh. I shall keep it in mind as a contingency. For now, however, I shall proceed with the plan. My lord.
I must find myself a new weapon. One worthy of our long-awaited reunion.